Open up your brown book, baby. It's for you, it's for us. The fantasies, no one can judge us, no one can judge us. This is for us. Open up your brown book, baby. It's for you, it's for us. Open up your brown book, baby. Open up your brown book. Open up your brown book, baby. Look.
Hey,
open up your brown book,
yeah, Sherry, it's like a vibe. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you have got some extraordinary production value here.
You know what I'm saying? It's a vibe. Hey y'all, hey, what's up? What's going on? Happy Wednesday to you. It's your girl Shay Baby, and welcome to another episode here at the Brown Book Series. Tonight, I have a wonderful young lady that's just hanging out with us tonight. She is just she's just wonderful. You know, USA Today's best-selling author, and she's going to be holding it down in Chi-Town with me this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big Brown Book Series welcome to USA Today's best-selling author, Miss Sherry Thomas. Woo! My production, Sherry, I need to get something where the crowd is like, wow. I work on it.
Yes, confettis come down.
All that stuff. Oh, that'd be cute. Get like a little big unicorn on top and just throw up confettis. That would be like, I like that. My next. So, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Here. It's lovely to be here. I am well. How are you?
I am good. Hey, y'all. Hey, in the chat, Mama Tony from Mama Tony's Book Nook and Reviews. Hello, Mama Tony. Thank you for joining in with us tonight. Sherry, Mama Tony does awesome book reviews, and she also does author interviews too. I'm sure she's going to be reviewing this after tonight. She's awesome.
Hello, Mama Tony.
Mama Tony, yes. Renata, hello, Kazo. How you doing? Hey, y'all. Hey, Mitzi.
Hey, Renata.
BBS in the house. Hey, Miss Mitzi. What's going on?
Hey,
What's going on? Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Make sure you share. Tell everybody that Miss Sherry Thomas is over here, honey. She's going to give us all the tea on everything she got going on. This is Miss Sherlock Holmes, Miss Charlotte Holmes. So we're going to talk about everything, all things, but of course, you know, we got to start with all the romance. Thank you. Yes. Me and Sherry was talking about the hat earlier. You know what I'm saying? Had to, you know, give y'all a little hat game.
The hat is indeed fire.
Yeah, thank you. Had to give him a little hat game tonight, just a little bit. So, Sherry, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the literary world, because we're going to get into all the books and all the good stuff in a little bit. So, what is it like in a day in the life of USA Today's best-selling author, Miss Sherry Thomas?
I think authors tend to lead pretty boring lives, and I think my life is even more boring than most other people's because I like it that way.
All the authors say that. How can y'all write such goodness and then your life just be like, meh?
Well, because we live in our heads. You know, we live in our heads. In our heads, it's like full of like ever since I was a little kid, like sometimes I would just like for no reason at all imagine this conversation, you know. Maybe between myself and some other person, and maybe between two people, just like, you know, talking. And so, you know, it's like that. Sometimes it can be a very lively show inside our head. Not all authors lead boring lives. Some of my friends, exciting things just happen to them. But I am the sort of person where nothing much ever happens to me, and I like it that way. So a normal day would just be me getting up, getting a little workout if I'm good and not too busy, and then play a bit of, you know, casual game on my iPad, and then get to emails and get to work. And in the evening, I cook and read, and that's it. Rinse and repeat the next day.
Rinse and repeat. Okay. You know, I get it. Okay, that's what's up. Like I said, a lot of authors, they all say the same thing, and I'm like, oh my God, it has to be something more. But hey, it works. It works for you, and it definitely works for us. So as long as you're happy, rock it out. That's what I say.
It does get a little more busy when we have books coming out. Like sometimes the publisher might send us on a tour, or you know, the size of the tour would depend on how big the readership is, and then so you travel a little bit, and then in the pre-pandemic times, we sometimes would go to conferences, meet other writers. Like I am going to the Chicago conference, the mini conference this weekend, which I haven't taught a live class in like 3 years. So I'm quite excited about the prospect of no longer having to stare at a Zoom call with little blacked out screens where you have no idea if anybody is still there.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about that. The Chicago North Romance Writers Seminar is this Saturday. It's April 15th. You guys, if you're interested in the Chicago area, the Indianapolis area, you know, and the surrounding cities and states, come on, holler at us. We'll be at the Chicago North Romance Writers Seminar on Saturday. It's a tea party. It's a fashion show. Sherry's going to be there talking for 4 hours straight. I told her, look.
Yeah, that's in the morning. It's for the writers. In the afternoons, the readers and everybody else who feel like can join in and come have fun.
Yeah, we're going to be hosting a fashion show. I'm going to try to get Sherry to walk in the fashion show, you know, and we're going to have a tea
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
you are a walking fashion show yourself, so I'm
I'm a walking something, that's for sure. We're gonna have a tea party. I'm gonna put a little something in Sherry's tea, and we're gonna have a good time. But the seminar, tell us a little bit about the seminar for some of the writers who may be in attendance or are still thinking about coming. What is your seminar going to be about?
My seminar is I think the name is called The Anatomy of a Romance. And it's basically about building a romance from the skeleton outward, from the story structure outward, because we have lots of people teach how to write romance, and I have taught many different workshops on how to write romance, and typically they deal with like, you know, character or maybe chemistry or subtext and things like that. This time we're dealing, you know, with building it outward from deep within, from story structure outward.
Okay. I love it. That's what's up. Story structure. Have you taught this type of seminar before?
I have taught similar seminar. In fact, I taught a 1 hour seminar on story structure just last month. So the one I'm be teaching this Saturday will be an expanded and beefed up version of that.
That's what's up. Go, Miss Sherry. I can't wait. Now, I'm just going to listen. You're part of the family now, so I ain't going to even hold you. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm gonna have to go in and out, Sherry. You know what I'm saying? My attention span don't last that long. After the first hour,
yes.
Yeah, after my first bathroom break, the first 10 minutes you're gonna give us. If I don't come right back, just know I'm gonna be back.
You do what you need to do. Yes.
Yes, but I'm gonna be back. But I got you back. I'm gonna be telling everybody y'all go on there and listen to Sherry because you got it going on. And then we're gonna have the book signing after that, right?
Yes, I think so. There will be other authors, and it should be an interesting, fun event.
That's what's up. Yeah, the other authors. And then too, you guys, you can go to the Chicago North Romance Writers.com and get all the information. You can also go to our websites, our social media platforms, mine's Brown Book Series and Sherry Thomas, and you have all the information on there. You need to go to Sherry's page anyway because you need to go over there and like and you know, be a part of her community over there. It's nice over there. I was over there playing around, girl. I said, "Oh, I like it over here." I like it over here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, that's what's up. So we'll be hanging out in Chicago this weekend. Again, if you're in the Chicago area, come and check us out. Come over there, and if you're not a writer, you're not interested in learning how to write and all the good stuff, just come to the book sign. Sherry will be there. She have autographed books that'll be there. Love Sweet Arrow is the bookstore on site that afternoon or whatnot, and so they'll be there too. Come and get your books, get your signing on. Come to the fashion show. Come to the tea party. Come check out me and Sherry. Look at us act up because it's gonna be fun. You're gonna have us.
I can't wait to see what you'll be wearing that day.
I don't know what I'm gonna wear. We gotta pick my outfit out, Sherry, before I go. I don't know what I'm wearing. I'm just trying to. I don't know. I gotta figure it out.
That's good. You have last minute inspirations then.
Now you're right about that. I don't know if my inspiration's good or not, but we gonna see.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Once I figure out what color my hair gonna be, I think the rest of it would all fall in place. We'll be like that.
I believe in you, girl.
Thank you. See, we right here. That's my girl, y'all. That's my girl. Now, Sherry, and in writing, how did you know that being an author was something that you wanted to do? Like, was you younger and was like, I think I'm gonna be a writer, be an author, and you write in a couple different genres.
Yeah. I've written books. So my story is, it's it's not the I want to be a writer since I was a baby kind of story. Even though when I was a teenager, I thought for a brief moment, oh, maybe I would like to write children's books when I grow up, because at that time I was reading children's book and I liked it, and I thought I should. And so I actually sat down and tried to write a couple books, and quickly realized that after one page, I ran out of things to say. Like, I will have this idea that seems great to me, write a few paragraphs, and turns out that's everything I had to say on that. I didn't know what else would happen. And so I gave up that idea within about 2 weeks of having it. So I thought I'll just have be a normal person and have maybe like a career like an astrophysicist or something. And then
hold on, Sherry. She said have a normal career like an astrophysicist.
Well, at that time, I didn't know that astrophysicists were really rare. I didn't know about anything. I was like 11 or 12.
Right. I thought you was going to say something like a doctor or a lawyer, an accountant. She said astrophysicist. Okay, continue.
and then as it would turn out later, I didn't like physics that much. So I liked it all right, but not that much. Right. So, and then fast forward, say, till I was about twice that old. And in the meanwhile, I had moved to the US because my mom was a student here. And
where are you from, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, well, I grew up in China. I grew up in this lovely city called Qingdao. It's on the eastern coast of China.
Okay.
And my parents divorced when I was young. So my mom, when she was about 38, she moved to the US to pursue an advanced degree. And so I was living with her parents, my grandparents, and then my grandmother died. And grandmother was the one who did most of the things around the house. Grandpa was more of an old-fashioned gentleman. He didn't know how to cook. He wouldn't know how to if you didn't know how to cook back then, you're kind of like hopeless.
Right.
It was like in the 80s, and there was like no such thing that you can just call up the telephone. We didn't even have a telephone back then, and get food delivered. So,
right.
So my mom had no choice, would bring us over to take care of us. And then I just went to school here, and I kept going to school. And after I graduated from college, I married pretty early, and I had a baby. Now, after I came to the States, I've always been a huge reader, and I was like reading everything I could get my hands on. And so after I came to the States, I learned to read. I read a lot of romance and a lot of science fiction in my teenage years.
Okay.
And so I have a very genre reading taste. Like, I don't really like literary fiction where everybody's going to die and you go through 800 pages. It's going to be really sad at the end.
Yeah.
So I like things to end, in a satisfactory manner. So I read a lot of romance and a lot of science fiction growing up in my teenage years. And so fast forward to when I was about, I think this was when I was around 23, maybe. My son was 1.5, and so by this time it's been at least 10 years since I last really thought seriously of writing anything myself. And I took my kid to the library, and there I found a historical romance by an author that I had enjoyed a lot in my teenage years. And it's not a terribly new book, but I hadn't read it before. So I took this book, took my son, and went back home, and I put him down for his nap. And as I said, I was a very young mother, and I was very disorganized in many ways. Like when my second kid came around, it would be better. But with the first kid, I was totally disorganized, and I was always on my hind feet for some reason. And so I just had that tiny bit of free time that day, and so I started reading this book. I was looking for the thrill of reading a great book, and I didn't get it. I hated that book. What? I just really hated it. And if I were the kind of person to throw a book, actually throw a book against the wall, I would have. I never did, of course, because it's a library book. And even my own book, I wouldn't have done that to a book.
You gotta take the book.
Yeah, and so I can't really tell you what happened because it's been 20 some odd years since when that happened. But all I can tell you is that day, between the time I set the book aside, which was like already past noon. And when my husband got home that evening, I had made up my mind that I was going to write historical romance. So when my husband got home, don't know what happened. It's like 23-year-old brain just like boom. And so when my husband got home that day, I said to him, hey, I'm anyway sitting at home, not making any money. And daycare costs money, and to go out and get a job, to get a wardrobe, get another car, everything would cost money. I say, if I could sit at home, write books and make money. And I was like, and this book is terrible. At least for me, it was terrible. And it was written by a New York Times bestselling author. I was like, I should be able to do as well as that.
I ain't gonna ask you what it was. I ain't gonna need to be messy. You can tell me off camera though. Off camera.
And bless my husband, he didn't say anything. Like, he didn't say anything in the sense that he didn't say, have you lost your mind? Or like, where did this even coming from? Because as far as he knew me, and we've been married about 2 years at a time, had dated I had never been a writer in that time. Like, I didn't have like stacks of notebook or anything like that underneath the bed. I didn't have tell him about many story ideas, because I wasn't writing. So just all of a sudden, like a lightning just hit me. And I said this, but I don't know what went through his mind that day. I never asked. But I think what he basically wanted was for me to be happy. And so he thought, okay, sure. Because anyway, I was being a stay-at-home mom. I had stuff to do. It wasn't as if I was refusing to go out and get a job because I had nothing to do. Right. I was busy. So he figured, well, if she wanted a hobby, let her have the hobby. And in the coming years, I would regret so much, telling him, and then him subsequently telling his family, and me telling my mom, and they telling other people they knew, because year after year after year after year, I would be writing and I would not get a publishing contract, because this was like in the Jurassic age. This was like in the 90s, when self-publishing was not really an option. If either is New York or bust, right? So then they would kindly ask, hey, how's the writing coming, and this and that. And I will be like, at first, in the beginning, you'd be like, oh, I'm just trying this and trying that. As the years pass, you go, yeah, I guess I'm still trying, but, and then, because even though I said to myself, surely I can do better than that book, it is so much easier to talk than to actually do.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever said anything like that since, because, even if you think it's a terrible book, someone still wrote it and it's still held together. It was still good enough for someone else to publish, and it's actually quite hard back then to break into publishing. So it's like fast forward 8 years. I hadn't quite given up on getting published, but I thought I need to, go to option B. By the time I had already had a second kid, and even that second kid was not old enough to go to kindergarten. So I applied to go to grad school. I live in Austin, so I applied to go to UT Austin for a 1-year master's degree in accounting. And guess what? I sold my first book a week after school started.
You didn't quit school, did you?
Huh?
You didn't quit
school. I didn't quit school because, not because of anything else, but because I was always a good student. So by going to grad school, I actually managed to get myself a fellowship, which was like, by that time, I became a stay-at-home mom when I was 21. And so this was the first substantial amount of money that I'd ever earned. And I was like, if I quit school, I'm gonna have to give that money back. It was money that made me.
Sure.
I'm holding on to the money with both hands. It was a hellish year, because school was pretty busy, and I had to write my second book, and and years later I realized I got lucky with my first book. I fixed that book without knowing what I was doing. And so came the second book. I was like, I made all the same mistakes. And I didn't really know how to fix it. My agent had to, my editor had to reject that manuscript again and again before I finally figured out a way to write it that was readable. So I paid a price for that fellowship. I really paid a price.
Well,
yes, this is sort of how I became an author, by just like, suddenly becoming crazy one day and deciding I'm gonna do something I've never done before. And the craziest part yet, as I look back on it, it was like, oh, that day was really when like fate nudged me onto a path, right? Because I'm the kind of person, if I lose interest in something, I will just quickly stop. I'm not going to like keep doing something I didn't like. And I just, all of a sudden I said, I want to write. And not only did I actually start writing, but I kept writing. One manuscript wouldn't sell, I would go on and write another. I just kept writing. So I guess this must be what I'm meant to do.
It is what you're meant to do. I am over here laughing like I don't know what. I'm like, Sherry is.
I know. Although recently I had a thought, because I did finish my accounting degree, and I did do a part of our degree was a internship at a nearby local accounting firm. You find it so I found one near my house, so it would be convenient. And the next year I went back for another accounting internship with them. But then I realized, okay, because I still had young children, it is so much more convenient to just work from home rather than work at an accounting firm during busy season when everybody was doing 16-hour days. So I gave up on that. And then just recently I thought to myself, oh my God, I have actually reached the age where I am far too old now to go back and become an accounting intern again. So I have now I'm actually stuck with writing. Not likely to have an alternative career at this path.
Lord have mercy. Sherry, they are loving you in the chat. They're loving you.
This is kind of a funny story. Yes.
It is hilarious. Midnight Ace from Midnight Ace Book Bar. Hey, Midnight Ace. She said, you are speaking so many of their truths.
Yeah, I know.
Grabbing
onto the suffering for the money is the eternal truth. Yeah.
Mama Tony says she laughed so hard she dropped her salad. We're sorry, Mama Tony.
I don't know how one drops their salad.
Laughing at you.
But
Lord,
yeah.
This is
do you remember that trope? And they did it right in front of my salad, I did that right in front of Mama's salad.
In front of Mama's salad. That is crazy. Writing is good for, yes, her storyteller is off the chain. Now, Sherry, speaking of storytelling, it brings us to the first segment here at the Brown Book series called Name That Book.
Okay.
Where we take a synopsis, a paragraph, a character, or something and that's related to one of your books, and you have to name that book.
Okay, sure.
All right, now you have a whole lot of series, so if I give you a name, we were talking about the name of the person that's the star of that book.
Okay, sure. Let's see. Yeah.
She said,
my memory is not what it used to be, but let's give it a try.
I get it. All right, you ready? Here we go. I think now I'm gonna throw you a little, think romance. Think romance. All right, cool. Name that book. Here we go. At first, she is only afraid that she might fall in love, and he might walk away when he has reconciled with his parents.
I know that one. That's one of my favorite. It's one of my independently published book and my only contemporary romance called The One in My Heart.
The One in My Heart. Now, let me just tell you something. I'm a book cover kind of girl, and this book cover right here gives me chills. The top up. How is he? The way he's laying on top. Sherry, who came up with this book cover?
It's my designer, Frog Speneth. She is her company is called Croco Designs, and I heard about her right around the time I sold my first book back in 2006, and I've been with her ever since. She does my cover designs occasionally when I do indie publishing. And she does my website designs, and she does a bunch of other things. So anytime I need a bookmark, I go to her. Yeah.
She is awesome. She is. I was like, I love this book cover. Okay, The One in My Heart. Tell us a little bit about this book.
This one is because remember I told you I had a terrible time writing my second book because I accidentally fixed my first book and didn't know how I fixed it, didn't understand what I did. I just thought, whoa, now I finally know everything there is to know about writing romance. So I had a terrible time writing my second book. I had a terrible time writing my third and fourth book as well, because, you know, there's a steep learning curve for me here. Girl, learn slowly. And so every time I would hand in a historical romance, a draft of a historical romance, I would take a break with this contemporary romance. It was just like, it was just so fun to write it on the side. There's nobody expecting it. I was writing it solely for myself, just enjoying and just relax and all that. So I always loved it deeply until I handed it to my agent and say, what do you think? And her response was so savage. She basically said, this one sucked donkey balls. Because apparently I had made all the same mistake, you know, with this book that I had made with my historical romance drafts that my editor rejected, you know, over at Bantam. So in the end, I had to do the same thing. I also had to, with those first 4 books for historical, I had to basically tear the whole thing apart and rebuild from the ground up. So that's what I did after a bunch of years. I redid this. So after I redid it, it became a fake relationship story. So you have 2 people who happen to have a one-night stand. And then the guy comes back and says, hey, I'm estranged from my parents and I would like to, you know, get back into kind of like reconcile with them again, but I'm proud and I don't want to say that's what I'm doing. You happen to move in their social circle. Let's fake date so that as your +1, I will be running into them at various places. And she was like, I'm not sure about this, which is the first sentence you read, right? At first, I was only afraid that I will fall in, you know, I might fall in love and he was going to walk off with his parents. But later she became afraid of other things because this guy seems to really understand her in ways that she wasn't sure she wanted to be understood.
You know what? I cannot wait to get to Chicago this weekend with you. I can't wait. I'm about to have so much fun. I don't know. I'm about to have so much fun. All right. Next up, name that book.
Mm-hmm.
To all of London society, Lord and Lady Tremaine had the ideal arrangement.
Yes, that is my first book, my first published book. Actually, it was also the first book I wrote back in, inspired by the book that I didn't throw against the wall. This was the first book, a first manuscript I wrote. And then 5 years later, it was funny because I wrote it and I tried to see if I could find an agent with it. And
what's the name of it, Sherry? You ain't.
Oh, so sorry. It's called Private Arrangements. It's called Private Arrangement.
Yes, and that's book 2 in this trilogy. You had a whole trilogy.
Well, actually, this is funny because this was my first book, and it was a standalone. And I wrote a bunch of standalone romances. And later, one time I was redoing my website. And I thought, you know, this one is actually related to 2 of my other books. So on my website, I put, you know, I made it up. I made a new London trilogy up. So actually the first book in the trilogy is like the last one to be written. And this one is the first to be written. And the third one is the second to be written. But they are kind of like sequential in time, in historical time. They happen, you know, they happen in order, in the order it's in the trilogy. And so I just put it on my website. And weirdly enough, later I started discovering that it's like, okay, it's up at Goodreads like that. I was like, sure, fine, Goodreads. Maybe readers did that. And then later it was up at Amazon like that. I was like, who messed with Amazon? How did they get them to make a trilogy? I never asked. I was just like, okay. And the weird thing was, for the longest time, the overseas romance market was kind of dead, because of self-publishing and because, you know, the transition from like paper copy to electronic. But in the wake of the Bridgertons, it kind of like the overseas romance market got revived.
Yeah.
So we are actually selling these books as a trilogy, which was originally not a trilogy at all. We're actually selling those books as a trilogy to some small overseas market.
You know what? I cannot. Okay. So
right?
I love it. Okay, let's go to the next one. Name the book. Character. And you're gonna have to tell us about this another trilogy. Tell us a little bit about it. Character. Helena. Is it Fitzhugh?
Helena Fitzhugh. I'm also guessing that's probably how it's pronounced, because I am no British lady and never met anybody with that name. It just sounds upper class enough. I actually did my research. There were lots of people that, among the aristocracy, there are lots of Fitz something last names. And basically what that is they were once some king's bastard. That's how their great grandparent, grandfather something got their dukedom or earldom is because they were some high ranking person's bastard. Yeah. This fits the Fitz part in front of the name. Yeah. But the Fitzhugh trilogy is about 3 siblings. Venetia. Actually, I don't even remember what the dude's name is, because he's just referred to as Fitz. I think his name might be George, but nobody ever called him George in the whole book. Venetia, Fitz, and Helena. And Helena is in book 3. Is Helena, and that Fitzhugh trilogy is actually was meant to be a trilogy. It was it's actually a tightly woven one with everybody's story throughout the trilogy and all that. So that's where Helena is from. Yes.
Okay. So wait. So what's the name of the book?
The name. That trilogy has some interesting names. The first book is called Beguiling the Beauty. The second one is called Ravishing the Heiress. And this one is called, the one with Helena is called Tempting the Bride.
Tempting the Bride. You know what? This is hilarious. This has been almost the best interview ever. Okay. Next up, name the book.
Okay.
This is another one of yours I really, really like. Okay. Famous in Paris. Infamous in London.
Yes, that would be my second book, the one that almost killed me outright. In fact, second, third, and fourth, each one almost killed me outright. The book is called Delicious, and
did you name it Delicious, or did it just somebody else name it Delicious? Why do?
I'm sorry?
Did you name it Delicious, or did someone else?
I'm almost sure I did, and it was like a fairly easy name because the heroine is a cook / chef. She's an infamous sort of cook because she had an affair with her employer, and so was kind of like how in Victorian times even now our imagination is salacious, and so I think. Oh my gosh, talking with you is like doing wonderful things to my memory. And because now I'm remembering that I said something about, about people whisper that, she did unimaginable things to him with like a rolling pin and pastry dough. and even as I was writing that sentence, I would have no idea what anybody could do with that. But I was like, that sounds dirty. And readers can probably think of like much worse things than I could just by putting those things down there.
And we did. Okay, that's delicious. Okay, next up, last one. Name that book. Here we go. I'll tell you when we're inside, he said, in response to her earlier comment. His tone deliberately light. Name that book.
Oh.
Yeah.
This one I have absolutely no idea.
Sherry. Is your newest release A Tempest at Sea? It's the Lady Sherlock series.
Oh my God! Is it possible to show the
Yes, let's get the cover. Let's get this cover for you. Hold on, let me find it. Stay right there, because this cover is everything. So I really, really love it.
Oh yeah.
All right, so while I'm looking for the cover, you start telling us a little bit about this book and the series itself.
Yeah, so I wrote a bunch of historical romances and kind of ran out of ideas, not out of positions, because when I was a young up and coming romance writer, I used to get annoyed when people say, oh, they ran out of positions and therefore they switched to writing some other genre. I was like, I even wrote a opinion column called Two Positions.
Listen,
and I said I have only ever written two different positions, horizontal and vertical. And
you know what? I am this.
and I was like, that is so not what love scenes are about. You're not there to invent new positions, because really, how many can you do? You're horizontal or you're vertical, and that's it. And so I didn't leave because I ran out of positions. I left because I kind of just ran out of basic story ideas, and I'm the kind of person who, even though I knew it would be great if I could just write the same thing over and over again, because that's what readers love, right? Same but different. I can't quite do it as a writer. So back in 2006, right around the time I first sold my historical romance, I came across this book by it's called The Beekeeper's Apprentice, and it's by Lori R. King. And basically, she reimagined. She gave Sherlock Holmes a female partner who's in every way his equal, except a lot younger. And I really love that book. I really love that reimagining of Sherlock Holmes. And I realized that, and that was the first time I said to myself, I would love to do something of the sort if possible. But at the time, I thought, well, I'm not a terribly strong plotter. And besides, I just started a career in historical romance. I should write a few historical romance first. So fast forward a bunch of years, BBC Sherlock was on TV at that time, and it was like all the rage. I don't know if you've ever watched BBC Sherlock.
I love BBC everything.
But if you did, at least that first season of BBC Sherlock, it was like, it had tremendous storytelling energy. It was so good. And when I was watching that, was when I finally said, you know what, not only do I still want to do this, write my own take on Sherlock Holmes, I am ready to do it, because I had written some other stuff besides historical romance. Also, I had written this fantasy trilogy. This is book one. And book two of the trilogy, the way it ended up being, when I got finished with it and looked back, I was like, hold on a second. This book is a mystery. The second book in the series turned out to be a mystery because, it opens with two young people in the Sahara Desert. They are there without their memory. They don't know how they got there. And they just know, like, there are people chasing them. They better get on the run. And then it switches back to like 7 weeks earlier in their previous life when they, and so then it goes back and forth until you find out at the end what happened for them to end up in the desert in the first place. So I was like, that is mystery. That is what happened to, get us to this point. So that's a mystery. And I was like, so I actually wrote a mystery now, and it wasn't bad. And so I was like, now I'm ready to tackle actual full-on, labeled on the spine as mystery. And I was
looking. You went back to the Lady Sherlock.
Yes, exactly. I was looking at BBC Sherlock on TV, and I was like, okay, so Lori R. King in her Mary Russell Sherlock Holmes books already gave Sherlock Holmes an equal female partner. BBC Sherlock moved it to the 21st century, and over on CBS there was Elementary at the same time, in which they made Watson a woman. So it seemed obvious to me that, okay, if I'm going to do something with it, the only thing left to do is to make Sherlock Holmes himself, is to gender bend Sherlock Holmes himself. And so at first I thought, this sounds like a terrific idea for a young adult series. So I asked my young adult publisher, and she said, you know what? Mysteries don't sell very well in YA. So I was like, you cannot argue with that. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell.
It don't sell, right?
Yeah, and so I turned around to my adult market publisher. This always sounds strange to say, to the adult commercial market publisher, basically to my historical romance publisher, Berkeley, and said, what about you guys? And the interesting thing is, typically people don't love it when you say you want to switch genres. Because your readers expect a certain thing, right? But I was lucky in that when I asked, could I switch genres? I would like to write this new thing instead of more historical romance. At the time was when people were leaving traditional publishers in droves because there was so much money to be made in self-publishing. Like romance authors were leaving their publishers in droves to do their own thing. And publishers, they need to retain their authors, right? They need to have still some authors writing for them. So they didn't even say anything. They didn't say, what can we do to make you write more historical romance? They just said, here's a 3-book contract. Go ahead with your.
Oh my, that is hilarious. So The Tempest at Sea, we got this is the cover.
Right. So I started writing the series, and before the series came out, I actually had my designer make a website just for the series. I figure if this series goes to 5 books, that would be a good enough invest. That would be, prove to be a good. And so now book 7 just came out, and I am writing book 8, and I just signed contract for books 8 and 9. So I'm writing book 8, and there will be book 9 also. So I say by this point, the website for the series is a good idea. And so because I in the end did not write for YA, so I thought, okay, if I'm writing for my adult readers, and they are used to historical fiction from me, and fortunately, the original Sherlock Holmes is set in the same time period I've been writing. It's set in the 1880s and 1890s. So I figured, okay, I'll just gender bend the original Sherlock Holmes, the Victorian one.
Right.
And then once you have that, you realize you can't just put Sherlock Holmes in a dress. Right?
Why not?
I mean, you could. I'll bet Sherlock Holmes in all his years of disguises must have done that at some point.
He did.
Yes, but basically, it is not so simple as to, say this man is not a woman. And because this man would now have had a totally different upbringing. And, it would not be so simple as, this female Sherlock Holmes just saying sayonara to her family one day and just go off to London, find her own apartment and shack up with some other person and start, with, shooting a bullet in the pattern of ER on their walls. And, being a woman changes a lot of things. It changes the way you're treated from you're young. It changes the way you're taught, what to do, what not to do. It changes the way you're taught what to want and what not to want.
Yes.
So then I never thought, I didn't intend to set out to make this a inquiry into the role of the sexes, the role of women, and how far we've come along, whether we've come along. It just happens naturally in the context. What would happen to somebody with the intellect and temperament of Sherlock Holmes, but was born as a woman? And just all these questions just rise naturally.
Literally. I love it. I'm glad you did it though. I love Sherlock Holmes. And I love Elementary. I actually Midnight Ace from Midnight Ace Book Bar, that's my slick partner, and I'm always talking to her about Elementary. I love that the character. He was a little too quirky for me, because Sherlock Holmes, I'm used to the BBC one and I'm used to the movies. He was Robert Downey Jr. played him in the movies, I think.
In the movies, the recent movies, yes.
Yeah, so you're used to that, and then the guy that played him on the BBC is he loved it. Elementary was cool too, and then they made Watson a female, so I was cool with that. And I was so happy when you wrote this novel. I'm like, okay, Miss Sherry Thomas.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy that readers seem to like the series, which is why we were able to keep writing it, and the reason that, you know, now there's a book 7 and will be 8 and 9.
That's what's up. So this one just came out. So ladies and gentlemen, please go get the newest release. A Tempest at Seas. The latest Sherlock is book 7. The latest Sherlock Holmes series.
Although if people haven't read any of the book 1, you know, you can read book 7 on its own, but you understand better why people behave the way the characters are, the way they are with each other, if you start with book 1. And book 1 is, you know, a pretty good place to start a series anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So go pick up the whole series. Now we're about to play another game real quick. I don't know how this game is about to go with you, Sherry, but I'm excited. It's called Who'd You Rather?
Oh dear, I was afraid it would be that. It would be something like, what would you rather?
Who'd you rather? Well, we take your heroes, we pit them against each other, and you let us know who you would like to have a one-night stand with.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Just one-night stand. We ain't talking about love, marriage. We ain't talking about none of that. Hit it and quit it. Okay? All right. Who'd you rather? First up, Felix Ravendale or Camden
Saybrook. Ooh. Felix, yes.
Felix. Okay, Felix, let's go. Here we go. Who'd you rather? David or Earl?
Ooh. I am actually not sure about those two. If I really have to pick, maybe David, but I wouldn't die if I don't sleep with either of them.
I can't. Last up, who'd you rather? Leo or Stuart Somerset?
Oh, see, I can't with either of those. Not because I actually love them a lot, those two. And I feel like those two have suffered a lot also. And I just feel like I cannot add to their suffering by sleeping with them.
I absolutely quit. I just don't know. I knew this. No. Sherry, what did they say in the chat? Let's go to the chat real quick. You guys, if you have a question for Sherry, throw them in the chat real quick. We got about a good 15 minutes left. They're all laughing at you. They're saying that this is a hilarious interview. Yeah, as Mama Tony says that she's sure that's not a dull moment in your house.
You will be quite mistaken there, because in my house, my husband calls me the house ghost, because I'm always sitting in a corner in the dark very quietly, and he's always entering a room and then unexpectedly discovering someone is there and go, you know. I guess for him there's a never dull moment then, because he keeps scaring himself when
Right, Missy. Missy says, and I said you can't hold it. Yeah, attention 4 hours in Chicago. I did say I was gonna step out for a minute, but now I think I might have to stay the whole 4 hours just to keep Terry on track.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to actually teach people stuff, so I can't like just all freewheel like this.
Oh, I love it. Midnight said, if someone is reading for you the first time, where would you tell them to start?
Okay, that is an interesting point. Do they want to read romance or do they want to read mysteries? Because if they want to read mysteries, obviously I'll tell them to start with book 1 of the Lady Sherlock series. Okay. And if they want to read romance, oddly enough, even though this is more or less how I am when I'm with people, my books have one. There used to be. I mean, it's still there. This website called All About Romance, they used to run these annual polls, and my books, I think, have won like Tearjerker of the Year award like 3 times. Really? So, you know, my books are actually not like, they're not unfunny, but they tend to be like deeply emotional and will twist your insight around, because it's all about, because I love writing stories about how people wrong each other. Not other people wrong them, but they wrong each other. And then they have to climb out from that hole and find their way back to each other and forgive each other again. But for the first time, I would tell them maybe to, if they have never read my romances, I would tell them to maybe read The Luckiest Lady in London
Okay.
Which had the only hero that I said yes, him. I'll have a nice stand with him.
They was waiting on your choices. They wanted to hear
you will make an excellent one night stand. So the luckiest lady in London. And if they prefer to read contemporary romance, then definitely The One in My Heart, which is also another one of my favorite. And if that hero had been there, he would have been picked over everybody else.
I know, that's why I didn't put him in there. I was like, that's gonna be a no-brainer. So we'll give her somebody else. All right, author's moments, Sherry. We're gonna run through these real quick. In being a novelist, what did you learn a little too late?
What I'm going to teach on Saturday, story structure. It was because I didn't understand story structure that I had such a hard time writing, books 2, 3, and 4.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, story structure. I get that. Let's see, author's moments. What's your most urgent priority for the rest of the year, both in the literary world and in your personal life?
In my personal life, I got some weird tiny flies that are buzzing around my house, and I need to get rid of them. That's like, I can say that because I'm already finished with my taxes. So priority before anything else. Otherwise, I have to have a decent first draft for Lady Sherlock 8 by June 1st, and I had to take this week off to prepare for the workshop. So after that, it's like I'm doing nothing, just writing for the next 6 weeks.
Okay, sounds good. I love it. Author's moments. If you could have tea with one fictional character of yours, who would it be?
Okay, that is easy to answer. In the Lady Sherlock books, not only is Sherlock Holmes gender bent into Lady Sherlock, Miss Charlotte Holmes, but Watson is also now Mrs. Watson. Mainly because I wanted to avoid the trouble in Victorian times of having a man and woman shack up together who are not married. So Watson is Mrs. Watson, and she is one of the most popular characters in the book because she's like the auntie you wish you had, or the mother you wish you had if you had a bad mother. And she's like, she was once a stage actress, and she got married, got semi-respectable, but she's still got that little wickedness in her, and she is very kind, very understanding, very helpful. She's exactly like the kind of female mentor you would want to have if you are fortunate enough to get one. But in case you don't need a mentor, like I am at this age, I'm not looking for, I would just go to her and see what gossip she has, because I'm sure she has tremendous gossip. Yes.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, I love it. All right, Sherry, dead or alive, if you were hosting a dinner party and could invite 5 people from any era, who would it be?
That would be interesting because you know what? I would invite all dead people. That way I don't have to actually cook.
This interview is now over. I can't with Sherry.
I am actually a decent cook, but it's like, anytime I have to cook for people, I get a little stressed out. I'll be like, start cooking the day before and things like that. From any era, I think, weirdly enough, for somebody who writes historical fiction, I'm actually not all that interested in history, except as history of food and clothes and things like that. So I think I might just invite 5 people that I don't see a lot, like people, because after 3 years of pandemic, there has been like very few writer conference. So there are lots of people whom I used to see once or twice a year at writers conference and say it would be fun. And I haven't seen a ton of them lately. But for example, the lovely Alyssa Cole, who lives on Martinique, and who I saw because I went on a cruise that stopped in Martinique.
Wasn't that hot?
I was like, can you imagine, taking a cruise to see a friend? Like, yes, now I've done that. So yeah, I would definitely have some writer friends whom I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years because of the pandemic to my dinner.
Okay, that sounds good. I absolutely love it. Sherry, this has brought us to the end of our interview. We have one question left.
Okay.
It went by so fast. I cannot wait to be with you this weekend. We have one question left, but before we go, tell everybody where they can go and get all things Sherry Thomas, your website, your social media handles, and where can they pick up your latest books and all your books, especially the Lady Sherlock series.
Let's see. My website is sherrythomas.com. The Lady Sherlock website is just ladysherlockbooks.com. And I am at Sherry Thomas on Twitter, author Sherry Thomas on Facebook, writer Sherry Thomas on Instagram, and too uncool to be anywhere else. My books are available seriously everywhere. They are available at all electronic vendors. They are available at your big box or independent stores. If they're not there, any copies, any title you want is not there, they can order for you through their distributors. Try the Lady Sherlock audiobooks is all I can tell you. Lady Sherlock audiobooks are awesome because they are read by a most extraordinary narrator named Kate Redding, and really makes the book come alive. And what else? Was that everything I was supposed to answer?
All things Sherry Thomas. Okay, cool. So Sherry, last question. You ready?
Yeah. No.
I'm not ready. Okay, here we go. Last question. If you were writing a book about your life, what would the title be?
Okay. I'm going to take, I just saw this the other day. I had forgotten I put it there, but the location, Twitter used to have a thing, your location. Mm-hmm. And I put mine as the nearest buffet. So a book about my life might just be, called On My Way to the Nearest Buffet.
Sherry, when I tell you, with all honesty, and as we say down south, no bullshit, no shade, this has been one of the most enjoyable interviews I've had in a long time.
Thank you so much. I spent 8 years in Louisiana, so I am like a 1/4 Southerner. So thank you, man.
I absolutely love it. And again, this weekend, you guys, if you're in the Chicago area, you can check me out. My girl, Sherry Thomas, and of course, Midnight Ace for Midnight Ace Book Bar. We're going to be at the Chicago North Romance Writers. She's going to be doing a seminar. She's going to be there talking for 4 hours. It's going to be absolutely great. I'm going to have to come back and let y'all know how it went. And so if you're in the Chicago area, please go check us out. You can go to my site, her site, and both our social media platforms to get all the information for the Chicago North Romance Writers. They're going to have a tea party, a book signing, a fashion show. I'm going to be there. Me and Sherry, we're going to be walking the fashion show. It's going to be hot. We're going to have something in our tea. We're going to have a good time. So if you're in the Chicago area, come by and check us out. Again, Sherry, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Shay, host extraordinaire.
Yes, girl,
you allow me to have such a good time. So thank you very, very much.
I absolutely love it. Yes, Iris Bowling gave me that name. She's using the new host extraordinaire. I said, okay, cool, no problem. I love it. All right, you guys, we'll see you guys on next week. Sherry, hold tight for me. I'll be right with you. We'll see you guys next week. Please like this video, share this video. Please share this video. Let everybody know Sherry Thomas. We all need to hear about her, and we all need to go read her books. Until next time, be safe and stay positive. Good night.
All right. Thank you, and see
your brown book, baby. It's for you. It's for us. The fantasies. No one can judge us. No one can judge us. This is for us. Open up your brown book, baby.